On a cold winter morning in a small town where everyone knows each other's business, a golden retriever with matted fur and sorrowful eyes appeared out of nowhere, carrying a half-eaten sandwich gently in his mouth, as if it were the most precious cargo in the world. Locals noticed the beautiful dog wasn't wearing a collar and appeared to be a stray. Yet there was something purposeful in his movements as he trotted confidently through the town square each day at precisely the same time before. We share what happened when they finally decided to follow this mysterious dog. Please subscribe to our channel now so you never miss another heartwarming animal story that reminds us of the incredible bonds that can form between humans and animals. In the most unexpected circumstances, the golden retriever quickly became a familiar sight to shopkeepers and residents who watched him pass by their windows each day, always carrying food, sometimes a piece of bread, other times scraps of meat, or even the occasional apple. Many assumed he was simply finding meals for himself. But Marla Jenkins, the owner of the local bakery, noticed something peculiar about his behavior. The dog never ate what he carried. Instead, he always headed in the same direction, disappearing into the thick woods at the edge of town. Mapleton was the kind of place where newcomers were noticed, especially when they had 4 legs and golden fur. The stray retriever had become something of a local celebrity in the 3 weeks since his first appearance, his daily route so predictable. You could set your watch by it. "Here he comes," called Jimmy from the hardware store as the clock struck 10:30. The golden dog trotting past with today's treasure, a half-eaten chicken sandwich likely scavenged from the high school dumpster. During lunch period, despite his apparent homelessness, the dog maintained a dignified air, his coat dirty but not mangy, his frame thin but strong, suggesting he had been someone's beloved pet. Not long ago, his eyes were what caught everyone's attention. Though amber and intelligent, surveying his surroundings with purpose rather than the desperate scavenging of most strays, "I left him some scraps by the back door again," Marla Jenkins told the small gathering of regulars at her bakery's counter. "But I swear he only takes what he can carry in one trip, never overeats." "That's because he's not eating it at all," said Tom Wilson, hunched over his daily coffee. Tom had been Mapleton's only veterinarian for 37 years before retiring. Last spring at 72, his joints ached with arthritis, but his mind remained sharp, especially when it came to animal behavior. "I've been watching him all week. He's taking that food somewhere." Across town, the retriever had developed a routine that maximized his food-gathering efficiency. First, the school dumpsters after breakfast cleanup, then behind Lou's Diner, where the morning rush left plenty of discarded toast and bacon. Next, the park, where well-meaning mothers often offered bits of their children's uneaten lunches, and finally a strategic pass by Marla's bakery, where day-old bread would be waiting. "He's smart," Tom had explained to anyone who would listen. "Notice how he hits each location when the pickings are best? And see how he sizes up what to carry? Always takes the highest calorie option first." Several townspeople had attempted to approach the dog, but he maintained a careful distance, never aggressive, but impossible to corner or catch moving, with the relaxed confidence of an animal that knew exactly how close humans could get before they became a threat. Tom had tried everything from lying flat on the ground to offering premium dog treats to leaving trails of food, but the retriever remained just out of reach, watching him with what Tom swore was knowing amusement in those amber eyes. "It's like he's saying, 'Nice try, old man, but I've got places to be,'" Tom told Marla one afternoon as they watched the dog disappear down Pine Street toward the town's eastern edge, always the same direction, always the same purpose. Officer Dave had suggested animal control, but faced surprising resistance from the community. "He's not hurting anyone," Marla had argued. "Not aggressive, not disease, just on a mission." Most fascinating to Tom was the dog's remarkable traffic sense, stopping at crosswalks, looking both ways, waiting for cars to pass. Some long-ago owner had trained him well. The retired vet concluded, though, Who would abandon such an intelligent animal remained a mystery. The Golden Retriever's intelligence extended to evading capture as well. Several children had attempted to follow him after school, but he would simply sit patiently in the shade until they grew bored and left, resuming his journey only when unwanted eyes had moved elsewhere. It's almost like he's protecting something, Tom mused one morning during his daily ritual of watching the dog pass by, or someone by. The fourth week, the dog had regular benefactors. Throughout Mapleton, Carlos at the butcher shop saved bone scraps. Mrs. Peterson from the corner house left water on her porch. The elementary school janitor turned a blind eye when the retriever carefully picked through the cafeteria dumpster each, contributing to the mission, none understanding its purpose. Tom's curiosity grew with each passing day, eventually compelling him to follow at a greater distance, parking his old pickup at the edge of town where the pavement gave way to gravel and then to forest trail hanging back far enough that the dog wouldn't detect him, but close enough to maintain visual contact. What he discovered both frustrated and intrigued him. After exactly 23 minutes of walking the forest path, the Golden Retriever would suddenly vanish, seemingly aware of being followed. No matter how carefully Tom concealed himself, the dog would either double back or disappear into underbrush, only to emerge later without his food. Cargo heading back toward town knows these woods better than I do, Tom admitted to Marla after his third failed attempt, and he absolutely knows when he's being followed. Maybe we need a different approach, Marla suggested, refilling Tom's coffee cup, her eyes twinkling with the excitement of mystery. Maybe we need more people a team, Tom nodded slowly, warming to the idea. Someone to watch from a distance, someone to track the path itself. Someone young with good eyes and quick feet, Marla added. They both turned simultaneously toward Sam Rodriguez, the 16-year-old busboy, clearing tables by the window. The teenager had been documenting the Golden Retriever's appearances on his phone for weeks, posting updates to the local community page that had earned him minor celebrity status among Mapleton's social media users. Sam, Marla called, motioning him over. How would you like to help solve the mystery of our golden friend? The boy's eyes widened as Tom explained their plan. So you think he's like taking care of something in the woods? Like in those stories where dogs lead people to somebody who's hurt? Or something else entirely? Tom cautioned. But whatever it is, it matters enough for him to develop an entire system around it, and that makes it worth investigating. As Sam eagerly agreed to join their expedition, Marla glanced out the window just in time to see their subject trotting past, carrying what appeared to be half a submarine sandwich, his tail, neither up with excitement nor tucked with fear, just the steady, purposeful gait of a creature with responsibilities to fulfill. Tomorrow, then, Tom said, watching the golden form disappear around the corner. Toward the eastern woods, we'll find out where you're going, old boy, and why those scraps of food are so important. They're worth crossing town every single day to collect. Dawn broke over Mapleton with the soft pink glow that preceded the town's best weather. A perfect day for an expedition into the woods, Tom Wilson thought as he packed his old canvas backpack with essentials, water, granola bars, a basic first aid kit, binoculars, and the walkie-talkies he dug out of his garage. They were ancient technology in the age of cell phones, but reception was spotty at best. Once you got deep into Mapleton Forest, you really think we need all this just to follow a dog? Sam asked, eyeing the gear Tom had spread across Marla's bakery table. They had gathered an hour before the Golden Retriever's usual appearance, the shop still redolent with the scent of fresh bread. 40 years treating animals taught me one thing, Tom replied, checking the batteries in his flashlight. Always be prepared for the unexpected, especially when it comes to intelligent creatures like our friend. Marla emerged from the kitchen, balancing a tray of fresh muffins. Fuel for the journey, she announced, setting them down. And I've got these for our golden mystery. She produced a small paper bag of premium bacon strips. If we're going to follow him, might as well bring a peace offering. Tom nodded approvingly. Smart thinking. But remember, we're observing first, understanding his routine. If we approach too soon, he'll just change his pattern. Sam fiddled with his phone, checking the battery. I've got my camera ready, and I downloaded an offline map of the forest I marked. All the spots where people have reported seeing him enter the woods. The bell above the door jingled as Beth from the flower shop poked her head in. Is it true? Are you really going to track the golden ghost today? Marla sighed. Sam, you didn't post about this online, did you? The teenager looked suddenly guilty. I might have mentioned something on the community page last night. You know, just that we were going to solve the mystery. Within minutes, the bakery had filled with curious townspeople, offering suggestions and equipment. Dave, the police officer, insisted on giving them an emergency flare, just in case. Mrs. Peterson brought homemade dog treats. The hardware store owner, Jimmy, contributed a better flashlight. It's just a dog, people. Marla tried to remind the growing crowd, we're not exactly mounting an expedition to find Bigfoot. But to Mapleton, the golden retriever had become more than just a stray. He represented a living mystery in a town where excitement was usually limited. To seasonal festivals and high school football games, the dog's daily ritual had captured their collective imagination. Crowd's going to scare him off, Tom muttered, checking his watch. We need to move now if we want to catch his usual routine, they thought. Slipped out the back door of the bakery, Sam taking position near the high school dumpsters where the dog often made his first food collection. Marla stationed herself along Pine Street where she could observe. Without being obvious, Tom waded in. His pickup at the forest edge, all three connected by the crackling walkie-talkies. Target acquired, Sam's excited voice came through the static at precisely 10:15. He's at the school dumpster, got something looks like part of a sandwich moving. East toward the diner, Marla's voice followed 10 minutes later. Visual confirmed, passing the drugstore now. Walking steady, not running, doesn't seem to notice anything different today. Tom adjusted his binoculars, watching the tree line. Remember? The plan let him enter the forest completely before we begin tracking. Maintain visual contact, but keep your distance. At 10:42, Sam's breathless voice crackled through. He's heading into the woods now. Same entrance as usual behind the old Jenkins. Property. That's my signal, Tom replied, starting his truck. Marla, rendezvous at forest entrance in 5 minutes. Sam, hang back until we get there. By the time they gathered at the trailhead, the golden retriever had vanished into the trees, though. A clear path of bent grass and disturbed leaves marked his route. The trio paused, surveying the dense woodland before them. I've lived here my whole life, and barely come this far in, Marla admitted, pulling her light jacket tighter. What exactly are we expecting to find? Tom shouldered his pack. That's the whole point of an investigation. Marla, we don't know what we'll find, that's why we're looking. Sam had already started photographing paw prints in the soft earth. Look how regular they are. He's not wandering or exploring. He's following a specific trail, with Tom leading. They entered the forest, moving quietly, straining to catch glimpses of gold fur among the green and brown of the woodland. The path, initially clear, became less obvious as they progressed deeper beneath the canopy, sunlight filtering through in dappled patterns that played tricks on their eyes. Wait, Tom whispered, raising his hand. Listen. The sound of moving water reached them from ahead, a stream perhaps, or a small river, its gentle burbling masking their footsteps as they continued forward. The trail descended gradually toward the sound. Lost visual, Sam murmured, scanning the trees ahead. He could be anywhere now. Tom knelt, examining the ground. Look. Here, he pointed to a clear paw print in a patch of mud. Still fresh, heading toward the water, they emerged at the bank of a narrow stream, shallow enough to cross by hopping on exposed rocks, but swift enough to deter casual passage signs of the dogs crossing were evident on the opposite bank where wet paw prints led away into the underbrush. He came this way regularly enough to establish a pattern, Tom observed. But why cross the water instead of following it? Unless Unless he's trying to hide his scent or trail, Sam finished the thought. Like in those spy movies, Marla looked doubtful. He's a dog, Sam, not Jason Bourne, but he is avoiding followers, Tom countered. And water crossings are a classic way to throw off trackers. He could have learned that through instinct or experience. Carefully, they crossed the stream one by one, Marla nearly losing her balance on the slippery rocks. Before Sam steadied her with a quick hand, the forest on this side grew denser, less traveled by human feet, the underbrush thicker, the tree canopy more complete. They continued following the intermittent signs of the dog's passage for nearly 20 minutes before Tom suddenly halted, causing Sam to bump into him. From behind, "What's wrong?" Marla whispered. Coming alongside them, Tom pointed silently ahead through a gap in the trees. The golden retriever stood motionless. Perhaps 50 yards away, his head raised nose, testing the air, the half sandwich still, clutched gently in his mouth. "He knows we're here," Tom breathed. "Don't move." For a long moment, the tableau held frozen. The humans barely breathing, the dog perfectly still. Then, with deliberate slowness, the retriever turned his head looking directly at their position, his amber eyes seeming to meet Tom's, despite the distance. Without warning, the dog bolted, disappearing into the underbrush with a speed that belied his casual town demeanor. "He made us," Sam groaned. "Now what?" Tom sighed, removing his cap to wipe his brow. "Now we go back and try again tomorrow, but smarter. Maybe from multiple angles, maybe with a different approach." Or maybe, Marla suggested thoughtfully, we need to earn his trust first instead of just following him. As they trudged back toward town, their first expedition unsuccessful. Tom couldn't shake the memory of those intelligent eyes staring directly at their hiding place, almost as if the dog had been expecting them, waiting to see how far they would follow. Before turning back, "He's protecting something valuable," the old veterinarian muttered, "and he's not going to lead us there until he's ready, no matter how clever we think we're being." For 3 days, they tried different approaches to follow the golden retriever without success. Tom spent hours observing from a distance, noting the dog's heightened vigilance. Since their first attempt, Marla left increasingly appetizing treats. Along his route, hoping to slow his journey, Sam researched tracking techniques online and mapped every sighting on a detailed forest chart. He's too smart for simple tricks, Tom concluded during their strategy session at Marla's bakery after hours. "We need to think differently. What if we don't all follow at once?" Sam suggested, pushing his forest map across the table. "What if I go ahead tomorrow morning before he starts his route and position myself here by the stream? Then you two follow. From behind, he can't watch both directions." Tom considered this, stroking his silver beard. "It could work, but you'd be alone in unfamiliar woods." "I've got my phone GPS compass whistle," Sam countered, "and I grew up playing in the edges of these woods. I know enough to stay safe." Marla looked concerned, but nodded. "It's worth trying. We're certainly not getting anywhere with our current approach." Their new plan required precise timing. Sam departing before dawn to circle wide around the forest, Edge entering from the north, while Tom and Marla would follow the dog's usual route, maintaining significant distance. The walkie-talkies would allow coordination. Once all were in position, the following morning brought heavy mist rolling through. Mapleton perfect weather for their purpose, as it would reduce visibility but also muffle sounds. Sam slipped through the sleeping town a borrowed hunting jacket, making him nearly invisible in the pre-dawn light. He followed the longer route Tom had mapped, reaching the stream crossing just as the first golden rays of sunrise penetrated the forest canopy position. "One secured," he whispered into the walkie-talkie, settling behind a fallen log with clear sightlines to the stream crossing. No sign of our friend yet across town. Marla watched from her bakery window as the golden retriever made his usual rounds today, carrying what appeared to be half a roasted chicken leg. "Visual confirmed, usual schedule in progress," she reported. Grabbing her pack and heading out the back door to meet Tom, they maintained significant distance this time, over 200 yards behind the dog. never approaching closer. As he made his way toward the forest edge, every few minutes he would stop, looking back, sniffing the air, but their new caution seemed effective. He continued his journey, apparently satisfied. He wasn't being followed. Target entering forest now. Tom's voice crackled through the walkie-talkie. "Sam, hold position, we're hanging." "Way back. Copy that," Sam whispered, adjusting his position behind the log. Still no activity at the crossing. Nearly 20 minutes passed before Sam's walkie-talkie crackled again. "He should be approaching your position soon," Tom's voice warned. "He's moving more cautiously than usual, taking detours, checking behind him." Sam peered carefully through the underbrush, scanning the opposite bank, when a flash of movement caught his eye, not from the expected direction, but from his right, along the stream itself. The golden retriever had apparently changed his route, bypassing the usual crossing entirely. "He's deviating," Sam hissed into the walkie-talkie, "moving upstream instead of crossing. Smart dog. Can you parallel him without being seen?" Tom asked. "I think so. There's dense cover along the bank." Sam moved carefully, keeping low, using the sound of the stream to mask his movements as he tracked the dog from his side of the water. The retriever continued upstream for nearly 200 yards before finding a shallower crossing point, still clutching the chicken leg carefully above the water as he picked his way across. "He's crossed farther up, switching back toward his usual trail now," Sam reported. "I can still follow." Visually, with painstaking caution, Sam shadowed the dog, maintaining the stream between them as additional concealment. The retriever seemed less vigilant now, perhaps believing he had successfully evaded any followers by changing his crossing point. The distance between them gradually decreased to about 30 yards as the dog followed what was clearly a familiar path. "Wait," Sam whispered into the walkie-talkie. "I see something ahead." Through the trees, an unnatural shape emerged, a structure of some kind, weathered gray wood nearly consumed by surrounding vegetation, only its straight lines distinguishing it from the organic forms of the forest. The golden retriever approached this structure with increasing excitement, his pace quickening, tail beginning to wag. "It's some kind of old cabin or shed," Sam reported, his voice tight with excitement. "Really run down, almost collapsed on one side. Can you get closer?" Marla's voice came through. "What's he doing?" Sam crept forward, finding better concealment behind a dense thicket. "He's going inside through a gap in the wall, like he's done it 1,000 times before, still carrying the food." Tom and Marla had been making steady progress through the forest following Sam's directions. "But we're still at least 10 minutes behind." "We're moving as fast as we can," Tom panted. "Don't approach the structure, stay hidden." Sam's curiosity overwhelmed his caution as he inched closer to the dilapidated cabin, staying low, using every available cover to mask his approach. The golden retriever had disappeared inside, but Sam could now make out details of the structure. A small single-room cabin, its roof partially caved-in walls leaning precariously as nature reclaimed the site. A broken window gaped like a missing tooth on the visible side. "It's definitely abandoned," Sam whispered. "Looks like it's been here for decades." Creeping to within 15 yards, Sam found a position behind a large oak with clear view of the cabin's entrance. The gap in the wall where the dog had entered. Careful to keep the walkie-talkie volume low, he continued reporting. No movement, no sounds, waiting for visual on the dog again. Minutes passed in tense silence before Sam's patience was rewarded. The golden retriever emerged from the cabin without the chicken leg padding to a small spring near the structure where he drank deeply before returning inside. "He's delivered the food to something or someone inside," Sam concluded. "This has to be where. He's been bringing everything all this time." Tom's voice crackled through. "We're about 5 minutes out. Still following your direction. Markers don't approach until we get there. Guys." Sam's voice dropped to a bare whisper. "I just heard something. From inside, not the dog. A voice, I think. I think there's a person in there." The forest fell silent around him, birds calling distantly, the stream's gentle music, the only sounds until another noise emerged from the cabin. Unmistakable, This time, a human voice, weak but clearly calling to. The dog inside Sam couldn't make out words, but the tone was affectionate, conversational. Definitely a human voice. Sam confirmed his own voice, trembling with the discovery. Older male, from the sound someone's living in that wreck, and the dog is bringing them food every day. The full realization of what they had discovered washed over Sam. The dog wasn't a stray at all, but a loyal companion to someone hidden away in the woods. Someone who couldn't or wouldn't come to town themselves. Someone who depended entirely on the Golden Retriever's daily missions for sustenance. "Hurry," he urged into the walkie-talkie. "I think whoever's in there might need help." As Tom and Marla crashed through the underbrush, closing the final distance, Sam remained. Frozen behind his tree, staring at the ramshackle cabin, suddenly understanding why the retriever had been so determined to protect his secret, so vigilant against followers, so careful with his precious cargo of scavenged food. The mystery of the hut. Golden Retriever had been solved, but a far more profound question now took its place. Who was living in such desperate isolation? And why had they retreated so completely from the world, relying only on the devotion of a dog to maintain their tenuous connection to humanity? Tom and Marla arrived breathless, finding Sam still crouched behind the oak tree, his face pale with the weight of their discovery. "Over there," he whispered, pointing toward the dilapidated structure, barely visible through the tree stump. Assessed the situation with the measured caution of his veterinary years. "We need to approach carefully," he advised. "Whoever's in there has been isolated a long time, might be scared or defensive or dangerous," Marla added, voicing the concern that had entered all their minds. "We don't know why someone would choose to live like this." They observed the cabin for several minutes, noting its advanced state of decay. The moss-covered roof partially collapsed on one side, windows broken or boarded over, with mismatched planks, a stone chimney listing dangerously to one side. What had once been a small front porch had rotted away, leaving a treacherous step to the warped front door, which appeared nailed shut, explaining why the dog used the gap in the sidewall. "Hello?" Tom called, finally, breaking the silence, his voice deliberately gentle. "Is anyone there? We don't mean any harm." No response came from the cabin, but the Golden Retriever suddenly appeared at the wall, opening his posture alert. Ears forward, hackles slightly raised, though he didn't bark or growl. His message was clear. He was standing guard. "It's okay, boy." Tom spoke directly to the dog using the soothing tone he'd perfected over decades of veterinary practice. "We've been watching you in town. We just want to help." The dog's ears flicked at the familiar human voice, but his protective stance didn't waver. Marla stepped forward slowly, reaching into her pocket. "We brought something," she said, removing a paper-wrapped package, some real food, not just scraps at the scent of fresh meat. The retriever's nose twitched his tail, giving a single uncertain wag, though he remained firmly positioned in the opening. "Let me try," Sam suggested, moving carefully from behind, the tree kneeling at Marla's side to appear less threatening. "Hey, buddy, remember me? From town? We've seen how hard you work bringing food here every day. That's really amazing." The dog studied them intently, his intelligent eyes moving from face to face, assessing their intentions with uncanny perception. Weak voice suddenly called from within the cabin. "Max, who's there?" The trio exchanged glances. "We're from Mapleton," Tom called back. "We followed your dog. We were concerned." Silence followed. Then shuffling sounds from inside the cabin before a face appeared in the darkness. Behind the dog, pale, gaunt, with a wild gray beard and suspicious eyes. "Go away," the voice commanded, though it lacked strength. "Don't need anything. Don't want anything, sir." Tom tried again. "We noticed your dog bringing food every day. We were worried about both of you." "Max takes care of me just fine," the voice replied defensively. "Been doing it for years. Don't need your help or your charity." The Golden Retriever, Max, looked between his owner and the visitors, his dilemma evident in his posture torn between protection and the potential help these familiar humans from town might offer. Marla unwrapped the package, revealing fresh roasted chicken. "We brought this for both of you," she said, placing it on a flat stone about 10 feet from the cabin. "Real food, not scraps." Max looked back at his owner, seeking permission, his loyalty clearly battling with the temptation of proper food. "Your dog has been working very hard," Tom added. "Coming to town every day, gathering what he can, carrying it all this way, never eating what he finds, saving it all for you." Something in these words seemed to reach the man inside his silence, stretching before he finally spoke. Again, his voice slightly less hostile. "He's a good dog, best there ever was, but you shouldn't have followed him. Don't want people knowing I'm here." "We won't tell anyone if that's what you want," Sam offered, "but maybe we could help. Sometimes bring supplies?" More shuffling sounds followed before the man's face appeared more clearly in the gap now positioned right beside Max. One gnarled hand resting on the dog's back for support or comfort, or both. His face was deeply lined with age and hardship, eyes roomy but alert, his clothing layers of worn flannel and what appeared to be an old army jacket. "Why?" he demanded. "Why would you help? What do you want?" The directness of the question caught them off guard before Marla answered simply, "Because your dog showed us how to care. He's been helping you all this time. We just want to do the same." The man seemed genuinely confused by this response, as if kindness without motive was a concept he'd long forgotten, been getting along fine without. "Charity for years," he muttered, though his weakened state belied this claim. Tom took a careful step forward. "I'm a veterinarian, retired. Now could I check your dog? Make sure he's healthy. He's been working very hard." At the mention of Max's welfare, something shifted in the man's expression, concern, displacing suspicion. "He's been limping some lately," he admitted reluctantly, favoring his right front paw. "Thought maybe he stepped on something." Tom nodded encouragingly. "I can take a look if you'll allow it." After a long moment of consideration, the man whistled softly to Max, who looked up at him, then reluctantly stepped away from the gap, crossing the clearing to sit halfway between his owner and the visitors. Compromise written in every line of his body, Tom approached slowly, kneeling beside the beautiful animal who permitted his touch, though his eyes never left his owner. "Good boy, Max," Tom murmured, examining the paw in question, finding a painful thorn embedded between the bump pads. Must have been hurting for days, but he kept making his trips anyway. With gentle, practiced movements, Tom removed the thorn, checking the infection that had begun to form around it. From his pack, he produced antibiotic ointment and a small bandage. "This should feel better soon," he told both dog and man. The man watched intently from the cabin gap, his concern for Max evidently outweighing his fear of strangers. "He never complained," he said softly. "Never showed it was hurting. That's how they are," Tom replied, wrapping the paw. "Especially the loyal ones, they hide their pain to keep helping those they love." These words hung in the clearing, charged with meaning beyond the immediate situation. Max looked between his owner and Tom before making a decision, rising from his sitting position to return to the cabin. But instead of resuming his guard post, he nudged his owner gently with his nose, pushing him slightly forward, as if encouraging him. "I think he wants you to talk to us," Sam observed from where he still knelt beside Marley. Man hesitated, one hand braced against the cabin wall, the other buried in Max's golden fur, drawing strength from the contact. "Name's Leo," he finally offered. "Leo Barnes been out here going on 8 years now." "I'm Tom Wilson," Tom replied. "This is Marla Jenkins and Sam Rodriguez. From town, we've been watching Max for weeks, trying to understand where he was going." "Stubborn folks, aren't you?" Leo remarked, though a ghost of amusement flickered across his weathered features. "Almost as stubborn as this dog." Marla gestured to the chicken, still waiting on the flat stone. "Would you join us, Leo? Just to talk?" The invitation hung in the air, Leo's instinct for isolation warring visibly. With some long-dormant social need, Max seemed to sense this internal conflict pressing his body supportively against his owner's legs might as well, Leo finally conceded in a voice, suggesting the effort cost him greatly. Since you came all this way, with painful slowness, he emerged fully from the cabin, revealing a thin, stooped figure leaning heavily on a hand-carved walking stick. His steps uncertain, as if walking in open space among strangers had become an almost forgotten skill. Max stayed pressed against his side, matching his pace, supporting his faltering steps. Leo Barnes took his first tentative steps toward human connection. In what had clearly been years, Tom, Marla, and Sam exchanged glances silently, acknowledging the privilege of this moment and the responsibility it carried. The Golden Retriever had not just led them to a hidden cabin in the woods, but to a soul who had disappeared from the world, leaving only a devoted dog as his ambassador. Leo settled on a fallen log near the stone where Marla had placed the chicken, his movements deliberate and pained. Max positioned himself protectively between his owner and the visitors, his bandaged paw held slightly above the ground, though his eyes remained alert. The hostility had faded, replaced by cautious acceptance. "Been a while since I had company," Leo admitted, reaching for the chicken with trembling hands that betrayed both age and hunger, despite his evident attempt to appear casual. Apart from Max, of course, Tom sat on a stump across from Leo, giving the man space while Marla and Sam remained standing slightly farther back, forming a loose semicircle that wasn't threatening but allowed conversation. "How long have you been out here, Leo?" he asked gently. Leo tore a piece of chicken, offering it to Max before taking any, himself a gesture that spoke volumes. "Full time, about 8 years. I reckon owned this hunting cabin. Before that, used it weekends, holidays." He glanced at the dilapidated structure. Wasn't much even then, but it was mind-free and clear. As Leo ate carefully, savoring each bite, they noticed his gauntness more clearly, his clothes hanging on a frame that had once been more substantial, his hands rope-veined, and spotted with age, perhaps 75, though hardship made precise estimation. "Difficult? You were a builder?" Tom asked. Noting the calloused hands, the stooped shoulders of someone who had spent decades in physical labor, Leo nodded surprise. Flickering across his features, "How'd you know?" "Just a guess." Tom smiled. "My father was in construction, had those same hands, those same shoulders." A connection established, however tenuous Leo seemed to relax marginally. 43 years. Framing, houses, roofing, concrete, foundations, you name it. Barnes Construction was just me and my crew, but we built half the newer neighborhoods in Mapleton and Millfield. Sam looked up sharply. "Barnes Construction, my dad talks about you guys you built. Our house on Willow Street about 15 years ago." Leo's eyes brightened momentarily. "The Rodriguez place? Corner lot with the tricky foundation on that slope? Good house, solid work." "It is," Sam confirmed, excited by the connection. "Dad, always, says they don't build them like that anymore." A ghost of pride crossed Leo's weathered face before fading back into wariness. That was another life before everything changed. Marla had been quietly observing, now asked gently, "What happened, Leo? How did you end up living here alone?" The question hung in the air, Leo's expression closing like a shutter. Max, sensing the shift, pressed closer to his side. "Didn't plan it this way," Leo finally answered, stroking Max's golden head. "Had a good business. Wife Linda house in town, normal life. Then Linda got sick. Cancer, moved fast, too fast. Took everything fighting. It money savings, house business." His words emerged in staccato fragments, as if the full narrative was too painful to articulate. "When?" "She was gone, nothing left to stay for too many memories, too many bills." "I'm so sorry," Marla said softly. Leo shrugged, a gesture meant to appear indifferent, though the pain remained visible in his eyes. Had this cabin paid off decades ago? Decided to stay here while I figured things out. Days became weeks, became years. He looked around at the deteriorating structure. Place got worse, I got worse, just kind of faded away from everything. "And Max?" Tom prompted. "Where did he come from?" For a The first time a genuine smile transformed Leo's face, softening the hard lines of isolation and hardship. Found him, or he found me? About 5 years back during that bad winter? Remember that blizzard? Tom nodded. February 2018, worst in 30 years. Storm was howling. Thought I heard something outside, figured raccoon or maybe coyote. Opened the door and there he was, just a puppy. Then half-frozen, shivering collar, but no tags, probably dumped by someone who couldn't handle him or got lost from campers. Max looked up at the sound of his story, his tail thumping gently against the forest floor. Tried to find his owners at first, Leo continued, but storm kept up, roads blocked, no way to get to town. Then, after we weathered it together, few days, just couldn't. Give him up. His gnarled hand rested protectively on Max's back. Saved my life. That winter kept me warm, kept me company, gave me a reason to keep going. And now he saves your life every day, Marla observed. Bringing you food, Leo nodded his pride. In Max evident, smartest dog I ever saw figured it out on his own. At first, he'd just hunt, bring back squirrels, birds. Then, one day, followed some hikers scrounged from their picnic, realized town meant food, started making trips every day. He never stays for long in town, Sam noted. Always gets his food and heads straight back here, to you. Worried sick when he's gone, Leo admitted. Count the minutes till he's back. But what choice do we have? Can't get to town myself anymore, he gestured. To his leg, where beneath the worn pants they could now see the outline of something rigid. Back injury got worse last year. Can barely walk, even with the stick. Tom leaned forward. Medical concern overriding caution. You haven't seen a doctor? There are services Leo programs for veteran seniors. Leo's face hardened. Don't want charity. Don't want to be a burden. Already lost everything. Once won't be put in some institution. Max keeps me going just fine. But winter's coming, Marla pointed out. Gently. And the cabin's not in good shape. Weathered worse, Leo insisted, though a flicker of concern crossed his features. Got my wood pile started? Max brings enough we manage? Sam, who had been quietly taking in the cabin's condition, spoke up. The roof on the north side is about to collapse, sir. If we could just help repair that before snow comes. Leo looked at the teenager, suspicion battling with practical necessity. Why would you do that? Why help a stranger? Because we're neighbors, Marla said simply. Even if you live out here, you're still part of Mapleton. And because Max showed us how, Tom added, that dog travels miles every day just to bring you food. Never giving up, never complaining, even with a thorn in his paw. He's been teaching the whole town about loyalty and care, whether we realized it or not. Leo considered this, his weathered hand never stopping its gentle stroking of Max's fur. Always said he was smarter than most people. A comfortable silence settled over the unlikely gathering. The afternoon sun filtering through the trees, Max's eyes drifting closed as the tension of the encounter faded, replaced by the simple pleasure of human connection, however tenuous. I should check inside, Tom ventured. Carefully, make sure it's safe, medically speaking. If you're planning to stay through winter, Leo's independence warred visibly with reason. Place is a mess, haven't had visitors in years. We're not here to judge Leo, Marla assured him. Just to help, if you'll let us. After a long moment, Leo nodded, a decision clearly difficult for a man who had chosen isolation for so long. Suppose it wouldn't hurt to have someone look, might be. Some things need fixing. Can't do much myself these days, as Leo struggled to his feet, declining assistance, but accepting Max's steady presence beside him. They caught their first glimpse of the true extent of his disability, his right leg nearly immobile, dragging slightly as he made his way back toward the cabin with painful slowness. Built hundreds of houses for other folks, he remarked with bitter irony. Now can't even keep my own roof from leaking. Following Leo's halting progress back to the cabin, Tom, Marla, and Sam exchanged concerned glances, all thinking the same unspoken thought. How had this man survived winters alone in these conditions? And more importantly, how would he survive the coming one without help? The answer padded faithfully alongside Leo, his golden coat catching the ire. Sunlight, his loyalty never wavering, despite his own injury. The dog who had connected two worlds without anyone realizing it until today. The interior of Leo's cabin revealed both ingenuity and desperation. A single room approximately 15 by 20 feet. With a small wood stove at its center, the collapsed section of roof had been partially covered with a blue tarp, now weathered. And leaking, a narrow cot positioned in the driest corner was neatly made with an assortment of sleeping bags and blankets. Shelves, constructed from scavenged lumber, lined one wall holding dented cans. Rusted tools and dog-eared paperbacks, a collection of plastic containers caught rainwater through strategic gaps in the remaining roof. It's not much, Leo acknowledged as they entered the cramped space, Max limping to his worn cushion beside the cot. But it keeps most of the weather out, Tom surveyed the makeshift living quarters with growing concern, noting the dampness, the mold in certain corners, the insufficient insulation. How do you heat it in winter? Leo gestured toward the small wood stove. Got that working again couple years ago, gather? Wood all summer and fall. Max helps drag smaller branches. His pride in their self-sufficiency was evident, despite the clearly inadequate setup. Marla examined the food storage area, a metal trunk with a heavy lid. To keep critters out, Leo explained. Various canned goods and dry staples neatly arranged alongside Max's dog food, the latter given prominent placement, signaling its importance. You've done remarkably well with limited resources, Tom observed carefully. But Leo, your roof won't survive. Another winter, especially if we get heavy snow. Leo's face hardened. Managed last winter, we'll manage this one. Sam, who had been examining the structure with the natural curiosity of youth, spoke up. The support beam. There is completely rotted, sir. One good storm, and the whole north side could come down. A heavy silence followed Sam's assessment. Leo's expression conflicted pride battling practicality. Don't have materials to fix it, don't have the strength anymore anyway, he finally admitted. The words clearly painful. Marla exchanged glances with Tom before suggesting gently, what if we helped? Brought supplies some people from town? Leo shook his head vehemently. Don't want charity, don't want to be a project, don't want the whole town. Knowing I'm out here failed broken. Not charity, Leo, Tom countered. Neighbors? Helping neighbors like people used to do, remember barn raisings? Community support? That world's gone, Leo muttered. Everyone for themselves now. Sam, who had been scrolling through his phone, looked up. Actually, sir, I don't think so. Look at this. He showed Leo the community page where updates about the golden ghost dog had garnered hundreds of comments over the weeks. Residents offering food sharing, sightings expressing concern and admiration for the dedicated animal. All these people have been watching out for Max, Sam explained, leaving food, making sure he was safe. Some even followed his route, partway to make it easier for him. No one knew what he was doing, but they wanted to help anyway. Leo studied the screen with evident surprise. All these folks cared about a stray dog? Not a stray, Marla corrected gently. Your dog, your companion, who's been working so hard to take care of you. People recognized that dedication even without knowing the full story. Max looked up at the sound of their voices, his tail thumping against his cushion, his expressive eyes moving between the humans. What if, Tom suggested carefully, we bring just a few trusted people? Materials to fix the roof, reinforce the walls. Make this place properly weather-tight. No strings attached, no pressure to leave or change anything else. Leo's weathered hand moved unconsciously to Max's head, drawing comfort from the contact. Why? Would anyone do that for a stranger? Because Max has been showing us what loyalty looks like, Marla answered, and maybe we all need to be reminded of that sometimes. Silence settled over the cabin as Leo considered their offer his independence. Battling with practical necessity, wouldn't be able to pay, not for years anyway, didn't ask for payment. Tom pointed out, just allowing us to help the way Max has been helping you. The mention of his dog seemed to reach Leo in a way nothing else. Could his gaze dropping to Max's bandaged paw? He's been carrying too much alone, hasn't he? Too much responsibility for a dog. Sam knelt beside Max, gently patting his golden flank. He doesn't mind Sir Dogs, like having jobs purposes, but maybe he could use some help. Another long silence followed before Leo nodded, almost imperceptibly. Roof does need fixing before snow comes. He conceded in a voice suggesting the admission cost him greatly. Relief washed over the visitors' faces. Tom already mentally cataloging the materials they would need. Marla thinking about additional supplies they could bring without overwhelming Leo's pride. Sam wondering which of his friends might help with the labor. Just a few people, mind you, Leo stipulated. Quiet ones who won't make a fuss and only for the repairs, nothing else, agreed, Tom promised. And we'll coordinate everything with you first. No surprises, the conversation shifted to practical matters, the most urgent repairs, necessary supplies. The work that could be completed before winter arrived in earnest, Leo gradually becoming more engaged, offering professional insights. Despite his initial reluctance, his builder's knowledge still sharp after all these years as they prepared to leave, promising to return the following day with initial supplies. Marla hesitated by the door. Leo, would it be all right if I brought some proper groceries next time? For both you and Max. Nothing elaborate, just fresh food. Leo's instinct to refuse battled, visibly with reason, before he nodded. Suppose that would be all right. Max deserves better than scraps. And so do you, she added softly, though she knew he wasn't ready to acknowledge that. Truth outside the cabin, they paused, taking stock of what they'd learned and what needed to be done most urgently. He's malnourished, Tom observed. Once they were out of earshot, probably has been for years, the leg injury needs medical attention, probably his back too, but one step at a time. The cabin's in worse shape than I expected, Sam added, but my dad knows construction. He could help figure out what materials we need. Carefully, Marla cautioned. Leo's pride is fragile right now, too much too fast, and he'll shut down completely. They made their way back toward town, following the path Max had traversed so many times, each lost in thought about the man and dog. They'd discovered a story of survival and devotion hidden in the woods beyond Mapleton's edge. You know what amazes me most? Tom reflected. As they crossed the stream, Max could have abandoned. Leo found a new home with a family in town. Plenty would have taken him in. Instead, he chose to stay committed to what must have seemed an impossible task. Leo rescued him during that blizzard. Sam pointed out, maybe Max has been returning the favor ever since, as they emerged from the forest, the afternoon sun illuminating the path ahead. Marla stopped suddenly. We can't tell everyone about this. Some will want to call social services. Force Leo into a home, take Max away. We need to be careful who we involve. Tom nodded, understanding. Small circle of trusted helpers, no social media about his situation, just the repairs for now building trust. And food, Marla added, proper nutrition for both of them, and medicine for his leg. Tom continued, once he trusts us enough, the challenge ahead was substantial, but the three unlikely allies found themselves united by purpose, by the golden retriever who had unknowingly recruited them into his mission of care, and by the stubborn old builder who, despite his best efforts at isolation, had remained connected to humanity through the devotion of his dog back at the cabin. Leo sat beside Max on the worn cushion, the dog's head resting on his knee. Made a mistake letting them in, didn't I? He murmured. Opened the door. Can't close it now. Max looked up at him with complete trust, his tail offering a gentle wag, his eyes conveying what seemed remarkably like reassurance. Suppose. You knew what you were doing all along, Leo sighed, scratching behind the golden ears, bringing a little bit of the world back to me, piece by piece. Over the following week, a careful dance began between Leo's fierce independence and the growing circle of helpers. Tom recruited Mike Rodriguez, Sam's father, and a skilled carpenter To assess the cabin's structural needs, Marla established a rotation of food deliveries bringing fresh supplies every other day while ensuring Leo never felt overwhelmed by charity. Sam and 2 trusted friends cleared the overgrown path to make bringing materials easier. Weather reports concerning, Tom announced. During their regular evening meeting at Marla's Bakery, after hours spreading the forecast printout on the table. Major system developing could hit within 10 days, first significant snow, predicted to be heavy. Mike Rodriguez studied the forecast. With professional concern, we've stabilized the worst section of roof, but haven't replaced it entirely yet. Need at least another week, maybe more, depending on weather. Leo's warming to the help, Marla observed. He even asked for coffee yesterday. Actual requests are progress. Max is definitely improving, Tom added. Paws completely healed. He's gained nearly 3 pounds just on proper dog food. Their small circle had expanded cautiously to include only those who understood the delicacy of the situation and respected Leo's privacy. Carlos from the butcher shop contributed. Protein, never mentioning where it was going. Jenny, the nurse from urgent care, provided basic medical supplies under Tom's guidance. Dave, the police officer, quietly looked the other way regarding the technically illegal forest dwelling. Temperature's the biggest concern, Mike noted, even with the wood stove, that cabin leaks heat. Everywhere inadequate insulation gaps in the walls, barely functioning chimney. Sam, who had been relatively quiet, spoke up. He won't leave, will he? Even temporarily? We've offered Dad's spare room, Marla's guest room. Tom shook his head. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That cabin represents his last shred of independence, his connection to his former life. The bell above the bakery door jangled unexpectedly. Dave, the police officer, entering with an uncharacteristically serious expression, "Thought you should see this immediately," he said, placing his department tablet on the table. Just released from National Weather Service, the group gathered around the screen displaying a severe winter storm warning with alarming details, projected snowfall 18 to 24 inches winds, gusting to 50 miles per hour temperatures, plummeting to single digits potential power outages across the region. This isn't just the first snow of the season, Dave explained. It's potentially the worst November storm in decades, making landfall in approximately 72 hours. Mike whistled. Low. Cabin won't handle this, not even close. We fixed maybe 30% of what needs fixing. We need to convince Leo to evacuate, Marla said, voicing what everyone was thinking. Just until the storm passes, Tom's expression reflected their collective concern, easier said than done. The following morning, they arrived at the cabin as a group, finding Leo outside with Max attempting to gather additional firewood. His movements painfully slow, his breathing labored. In the increasingly cold air brought supplies, Tom announced, keeping his tone casual, though the urgency of their mission weighed heavily. Extra food, water, batteries, blankets. Leo eyed the abundant provisions with suspicion. Expecting something I should know about, Dave stepped forward, choosing honesty. Major storm system approaching Leo, potentially severe. National Weather Service is calling it the worst in decades. Leo's weathered face registered concern briefly before settling back into stubborn determination. Weathered storms before, got the wood stove, plenty of blankets. Me and Max will manage. This is different, Mike interjected carefully. I've examined your cabin professionally. Speaking, it cannot withstand this level of storm. The roof section we haven't replaced yet will certainly collapse under heavy snow. The north wall is compromised. The chimney isn't drawing properly, creating carbon monoxide risks. Leo's jaw tightened. So fix it faster. Not enough time, Mike responded evenly. Storm hits in less than 3 days. We'd need at least a week with a full crew to make it safe. Marla approached gently. Leo, we have options. Several of us have offered spare rooms just until the storm passes and we can properly finish the repairs. Max sat beside his owner, sensing the tension, his amber eyes moving between the humans. Absolutely not. Leo's response was immediate, vehement. won't leave my home, won't be a charity case in town." "It's not charity," Tom countered. "It's survival basics. Common sense." "Survived worse," Leo insisted. Though uncertainty flickered across his features, Vietnam 2 tours, Desert Storm, lived through things you can't imagine not leaving because of some snow. Sam, who had been unloading supplies, spoke up. "What? About Max, sir? The cabin isn't safe for him either." The mention of his dog's welfare struck Leo differently, his expression softening as he looked down at the golden retriever, whose loyalty had sustained him through years of isolation. "Max would come with me wherever I went, of course," Marla assured him. "We wouldn't suggest otherwise." An uncomfortable silence descended, Leo clearly wrestling with the reality of his situation, his pride battling with practical necessity, while the others waited, respecting the difficulty of the choice before him. "Need to think about it," he finally conceded. "Let me sleep on it, decide tomorrow." They continued unloading supplies, arranging them carefully within the cabin, ensuring the woodpile was stacked, properly checking the stove's function, while honoring Leo's request for space to consider his options. Tom slipped Leo several pain relievers for his back, discreetly enough to preserve dignity. "We'll return tomorrow morning," Tom promised as they prepared to leave. "Whatever you decide we'll support, but please consider Max's safety as well as your own." Leo nodded gruffly, though his expression remained troubled. Max pressed against his side, sensing his distress as they made their way back. Toward town, the mood was somber, each understanding the precariousness of the situation. "He won't leave," Marla voiced what they all feared. "Not voluntarily anyway. Can't force him," Dave responded. "Legally complex, morally questionable. So we prepare for the worst." Tom concluded, "Bring everything he might need if he insists on staying. Hope for the best, but plan for reality." Back in town, they divided responsibilities, Marla coordinating additional food and water supplies, Mike gathering emergency repair materials, Dave arranging for possible emergency evacuation if conditions became life-threatening, Sam and his friends creating detailed maps for emergency services should they become necessary. The weather continued deteriorating, clouds building ominously on the horizon, barometric pressure dropping, wind increasing from the northwest, carrying the unmistakable scent of approaching snow. That evening, as darkness fell early beneath the threatening sky, Max did not return to the cabin for the first time in memory. Leo waited by the gap in the wall, calling into the gathering gloom, his voice increasingly concerned. As hours passed without the familiar sound of paws on the forest floor across town, Marla was closing the bakery when she spotted a flash of golden fur outside the glass door, bedraggled and limping, but unmistakable. "Max?" She gasped, opening the door to the shivering retriever. "What are you doing here alone?" The dog whined urgently, tugging at her sleeve with gentle teeth. Before backing toward the street, his intention clear. "Wait," she called, rushing back inside to grab her coat and phone. "Tom? It's Marla. Max is here at the bakery alone. Something's wrong. I think he's trying to tell us something about Leo." "Stay there," Tom instructed. "I'm calling Dave. We'll come to you." But Max had different plans. The moment Marla emerged again, he began leading her toward the forest edge, looking back frequently to ensure she followed his normally graceful gait, hampered by exhaustion and what appeared to be a new injury to his already healing paw. "He's trying to take me to Leo," Marla realized aloud, pulling out her phone again. "Tom, change of plan? Max is heading back to the cabin. I'm following him. I think something's happened." To Leo. Without waiting for a response, she followed the determined dog, who, despite his obvious fatigue, maintained a steady pace toward the darkening forest, the first light snowflakes beginning to swirl around them, harbingers of the storm to come. The snow intensified with alarming speed, fat flakes giving way to driving sheets that reduced visibility to mere feet. Marla clutched her inadequate jacket closer, following Max's golden form, now barely visible, against the rapidly whitening landscape. "Slow down, boy," she called as the dog forged ahead, his mission clearly too urgent for delay, her phone buzzed Tom's voice, barely audible, above the rising wind. "Marla, where are you?" "Storm's accelerating. Dave says it's too dangerous to be in the forest. About halfway to the cabin, I think," she replied, teeth chattering. "Max won't stop. Something's wrong with Leo. I can feel it." "We're mobilizing," Tom shouted over the connection. "Dave, Mike, Sam, and I in Dave's four-wheel drive. Stay on the path. Don't try to shortcut." The call dropped, signal lost to the worsening conditions. Marla pocketed her phone, focusing on keeping Max's increasingly snow-covered form in sight. The familiar trail now treacherous with accumulation branches, cracking ominously. Overhead, beneath the storm's growing weight, Max paused at the stream crossing. Normally a simple hop across stones, now a dangerous obstacle with partially frozen slush coating every surface. "Careful, boy," Marla warned, but the retriever was already picking his way across with practiced precision, waiting on the opposite bank for her to follow. Her foot slipped on the final stone, plunging her leg knee-deep into the icy water. Gasping with shock, she pulled herself onto the bank, the sudden cold burning against her skin. "It's okay," she assured Max, who whined with concern. "Keep going." The dog hesitated, assessing her condition before continuing his pace slightly slower now, allowing her to follow more easily, despite her sodden pant leg already stiffening with ice and the plummeting temperature. Snow now falling so heavily it seemed to come from all directions at once, after what seemed an eternity. The cabin's dark shape emerged from the whiteout Max, barking now with renewed urgency, rushing the final distance to the partially collapsed wall. "Leo!" Marla called, following the dog inside. "Leo, are you here?" The cabin's interior was freezing, nearly as cold as outside the wood stove. Long extinguished, Max led her directly to the cot where Leo lay unmoving beneath a pile of blankets, his face ashen, his breathing shallow. "Leo!" She rushed to his side, laying a hand on his forehead, finding it burning with fever despite the cold. "Can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Linda?" he murmured, confusing Marla with his long-deceased wife. "That you?" "It's Marla from town," she corrected gently. "Max came to find me. What happened?" Leo's confusion cleared slightly, fell trying to get more wood back, seized up. Couldn't move, couldn't reach the stove. Max tried to help, but his voice trailed off, weakness evident in every word. Marla assessed the situation quickly. Cabin temperature dropping dangerously. Leo clearly ill and immobile. Storm worsening by the minute. No guarantee when help would arrive. "We need to get the stove going," she decided aloud. With trembling hands, she found matches and kindling by the wood stove, arranging logs as she'd seen her grandfather do years ago. Max watching intently, as if understanding the urgency. "Good boy for coming to town," she told him. "Smartest dog ever." The stove refused to draw properly. Smoke backing up into the cabin, forcing her to leave the door partially open despite the cold. Something's blocked in the chimney. She realized, fighting rising panic outside the storm. Howled with increasing ferocity, snow now piling against the cabin walls. Wind finding every gap in the deteriorating structure, temperature continuing to plummet as darkness descended completely. Marla checked her phone. No signal, the screen showing 6:15 p.m. and 12% battery remaining. "Help is coming," she assured Leo, who had drifted back to semi-consciousness. "Tom, Dave, Mike, and Sam, they know we're here." Max whined, suddenly alert, his ears perking up seconds before a powerful gust tore at the partially repaired roof, the blue tarp ripping free with a violent snap, followed by an ominous cracking sound. "That's not good," Marla whispered as snow began drifting through newly opened gaps in the ceiling. "Not good at all." She moved quickly, gathering every available blanket, piling them on and around Leo, creating a protective cocoon against the falling snow. Then turned her attention to Max, who shivered, despite his thick coat. "Come here, boy," she encouraged. "We need to stay together. Stay warm." The retriever understood, curling against Leo's side, creating a living furnace with his body heat. Marla joining them under the blankets, forming a tight circle of shared warmth as the cabin deteriorated around them. "Smart dog," Leo murmured briefly. "Lucid. Knew to get help. Knew I was in trouble." "He's extraordinary," Marla agreed, rubbing Max's ears. "Traveled all that way in the beginning storm just to find help for you. Always taking care of me." Leo's voice cracked with emotion. "Deserved better. Then this deserved a proper home." "He has exactly what he wants," Marla assured him. "He has you." Another violent gust shook the cabin, the repaired section of roof holding, but a different portion now creaking dangerously, snow accumulating rapidly. On the compromised structure, Marla checked her phone again, 7:03 p.m., 5% battery, still no signal, the temperature inside the cabin now well below freezing. Despite the struggling wood stove, Max's warmth against her side, the only comfort in the worsening situation if they don't find us soon. She left the thought unfinished. Leo seemed to rally briefly, his eyes clearer. "Been through worse, survived desert heat and jungle rain. This is just a little snow." Marla smiled at his determination, though she understood the gravity of their predicament. Leo's condition deteriorating, the cabin failing around them, the storm intensifying beyond forecasts. "Just stay with us, Leo. Stay awake if you can." Max suddenly raised his head, alert ears forward. Despite the howling wind, he seemed to hear something beyond the storm's fury, a low whine building in his throat, not of fear, but anticipation. "What is it, boy?" Marla asked, straining to hear whatever had caught the dog's attention. Then she heard it too faintly at first, then more distinctly the mechanical rumble of an engine, the rhythmic scrape of chains on snow, approaching slowly but steadily through the blizzard. "They found us," she breathed hope, surging. "Max, they found us." The golden retriever was already moving, scrambling toward the cabin entrance, his barking now purposeful, signaling their location to whoever approached through the whiteout conditions. Headlights penetrated the swirling snow twin beams, cutting through darkness, illuminating the cabin's entrance, where Max stood barking, his golden coat highlighted against the white landscape, a living beacon guiding rescuers. Home Dave's police SUV emerged from the blizzard chains on all four tires, moving with determined slowness through nearly a foot of accumulated snow behind it. Mike's construction truck, similarly equipped, followed in the carved path, Tom's face visible in the passenger window, Sam in the back, both scanning anxiously for signs of life. "Here!" Marla shouted from the doorway, waving frantically. "We're here!" The vehicles ground to a halt, figures emerging bundled against the storm, Dave carrying an emergency medical kit, Mike with tools and reinforcement materials, Tom hurrying toward Marla, concern evident even through his snow-covered scarf. "Thank God." Tom embraced her briefly. "Are you all right? Where's Leo?" Inside, she pointed. "He's fallen ill. Can't move his back. Then the storm hit the roof. Is failing." Tom and Dave rushed inside medical training, taking precedence, while Mike immediately began assessing the structure, Sam unloading emergency supplies from the vehicles, including a portable heater, propane tanks, heavy-duty tarps, hypothermia setting in. Tom diagnosed, examining Leo, possible pneumonia, developing back spasms, severe need to evacuate. "Immediately, roof won't last another hour," Mike confirmed, examining the creaking ceiling. "North corner's about to go completely." Dave was already on his radio calling for emergency backup, though his expression suggested limited hope. "Roads are nearly impassable. Plows can't keep up. Ambulance can't get through. We're on our own." "Then we do this ourselves," Tom decided. "We need to stabilize him enough to transport carefully, immobilize his back, get him warm gradually, not suddenly," while Tom and Dave prepared Leo for transport. Mike and Sam worked frantically to create a temporary reinforcement for the most dangerous section of roof-driving support poles against the sagging beams, Marla gathering Leo's essential belongings, the few photographs, mementos that represented his entire life. Max never left Leo's side, even as they carefully transferred him to a makeshift stretcher, his golden head resting protectively near his owner's shoulder, his eyes tracking every movement of The humans around him. "Good boy, Max," Leo murmured, reaching weakly to touch the dog's head. "Good boy. He saved your life." Tom told him, adjusting the thermal blankets. "Came all the way to town through the beginning storm to alert us." "Lead Marla back." "To you." A tear slid down Leo's weathered cheek. "Always said he was smarter than most people." Outside, the storm continued intensifying, the window for evacuation narrowing by the minute. "We need to move now," Dave urged, checking his weather radar. Second band approaching, even stronger than this one of vehicles. "As close as possible," Tom instructed. "Careful with the stretcher. Keep him level. Mind the back injury." They emerged into the full fury of the blizzard snow, now nearly 18 inches. Deep wind driving it into impenetrable drifts. Visibility reduced to mere feet. Dave leading the way with high-powered flashlights. Max somehow understanding the gravity of the situation, staying perfectly positioned beside the stretcher, as if guiding their careful progress. Almost there, Dave encouraged as the headlights appeared through. The journey back to Mapleton became a nightmare of white-knuckled driving and heart-stopping moments. Dave's police SUV breaking trail through ever-deepening snow, Mike's truck following close behind, both vehicles equipped with chains but struggling. Against nature's onslaught, road should be here somewhere, Dave muttered, peering through the windshield wipers that fought a losing battle against accumulating ice. Can barely distinguish forest from path in the back seat. Tom monitored Leo's condition. The older man drifting between consciousness and delirium, his fever climbing. Despite the emergency blankets, Max wedged protectively beside the makeshift stretcher, refusing to be separated, even in the cramped vehicle. "How much farther?" Tom asked. Checking Leo's pulse, finding it rapid and thready concerning signs in a man his age. "Maybe 2 miles to town limits," Dave estimated. "Another mile to the clinic if we can make it. Roads are deteriorating by the minute." Marla, riding in Mike's truck. With Sam, watched the SUV's taillights ahead. Like a lifeline in the swirling chaos, her phone buzzing with messages as they occasionally entered areas with reception. The town mobilizing in response to the emergency urgent care center is opening. "Especially," she reported, reading the latest text. "Jenny's calling in staff. They'll be ready for Leo." "If we get there," Sam said quietly, voicing the fear they all shared as another gust rocked the heavy truck. The SUV's brake lights suddenly flared. Dave's voice crackling over the radio. "Tree down across the road, can't go around, too steep on both sides," Mike swore under his breath, bringing the truck to a stop. "Now what?" Dave was already outside assessing the situation, snow pelting his hooded figure as he examined the fallen pine, its massive trunk completely blocking their path. "Too big to move by hand?" His voice crackled through the radio. "Chainsaw in your truck, Mike?" "Always," Mike confirmed, reaching behind the seat for his emergency kit, including the compact saw he used on construction sites. "But it'll take time we may not have." In the SUV, Leo stirred, mumbling incoherently, his condition visibly worsening. Tom applied another cold compress to his forehead while checking his oxygen levels with a portable monitor. "We need to get him to medical care soon, Dave. His temperature's climbing, infection setting in." Max whined, sensing the danger to his owner, nudging Leo's hand with his nose as if trying to keep him present. Focused on the living world, outside, Mike and Dave battled the elements and the fallen tree. The chainsaw's whine barely audible above the storm's fury, progress agonizingly slow as they fought not just wood but wind and numbing cold. Their movements hampered by snow now approaching 2 feet in depth. "Alternative routes?" Marla asked, scanning the offline map on her phone. "Other ways to town?" Sam shook his head. "Not for vehicles. Closest option would mean backtracking 5 miles then around. Old Miller Road adding another hour, at least in these conditions." Time ticked by mercilessly. 15 minutes, 30:45. The tree finally yielding enough for a narrow passage. Mike and Dave returning to their vehicles, exhausted but triumphant. "Can squeeze through one at a time," Dave reported. "Tight but doable." Leo's vehicle first. With painstaking precision, Dave maneuvered the SUV through the narrow opening branches, scraping both sides. paint surely scratched, though such concerns seemed trivial. Against the life hanging in balance inside once through, Mike followed his truck, barely clearing the passage town limits. Half-mile ahead, Dave announced as they continued their crawling pace, the storm somehow intensifying. Further snow now whipped by winds approaching 50 miles per hour, creating near-zero visibility. In the back seat, Tom fought his own private battle, monitoring Leo, administering what little medical intervention was possible in their moving emergency room, Max remaining a constant warm presence, never leaving his owner's side, despite the cramped, uncomfortable conditions. Almost there, Leo. Tom encouraged, though uncertain if the man could hear him. Just hold on a little longer. The lights of Mapleton appeared through the storm like a mirage, distant, blurred, but unmistakably civilization. Dave immediately radioed ahead. Approaching town limits, ETA Urgent Care Facility. Approximately 15 minutes, requesting priority snow clearance on Main Street if possible. The town had mobilized in their absence, the main road partially cleared by the municipal plow, creating a passable, if treacherous, path to the urgent care center where lights blazed. Despite the late hour, several vehicles already parked outside belonging to staff who had braved the storm to prepare for their arrival. "They're waiting for us," Dave reported as they made the final turn, the urgent care center's illuminated entrance visible ahead. Almost there. The vehicles pulled up to the covered entrance, where Jenny and two other medical staff waited with a gurney, despite the bitter cold immediately rushing forward as Dave stopped the SUV. 72-year-old male, Tom reported as they carefully transferred Leo to the proper gurney. Hypothermia. Fever, back injury, possible pneumonia developing. Got him? Jenny confirmed as they wheeled Leo rapidly inside. Room 1 is prepped. Max attempted to follow frantically, pawing at the closing doors, barking in distress as his owner disappeared from view. "He needs to come too," Marla insisted. "They can't be separated." Jenny hesitated briefly. Hospital protocols warring with compassion. "Bring him, but he'll need to stay in the waiting area initially while we stabilize the patient." Max seemed to understand, settling reluctantly in the waiting room, his anxious eyes never leaving the treatment room doors, his body tense with worry, the same concern reflected in the faces of the humans who collapsed into chairs around him. Their ordeal not over, but the worst danger past. "You need treatment too," Tom told Marla, noticing her still-soaked pant leg, her obvious exhaustion, possible hypothermia exposure. "I'm fine," she insisted, though she couldn't stop shivering. "Just need to warm up." Focus on Leo. Outside, the storm continued its assault on Mapleton trees, bending under the weight of accumulating snow, power flickering ominously, the town hunkering down against nature's fury. Inside, they waited hours, seeming to stretch endlessly. As medical staff worked behind closed doors, "He's tough," Mike offered, breaking the heavy silence. "Survived Vietnam desert storm. 8 years alone in those woods." "And he has something to live for," Tom added, watching Max, who remained alert, vigilant. By the treatment room door, someone who needs him. Finally, near midnight, Jenny emerged, looking exhausted but cautiously optimistic. "We've stabilized him," she announced, temperatures coming down, antibiotics on board for the pneumonia, back immobilized. "For now. Will he recover?" Marla asked, the question foremost in everyone's mind. "Too soon to say definitively," Jenny answered honestly. "His age, the exposure, the pre-existing conditions all complicate matters, but he's responding to treatment fighting." "Hard. Can Max see him?" Sam asked, gesturing to the golden retriever who had risen at Jenny's appearance, his entire body tense with anticipation. Jenny's professional demeanor softened. "Actually, I was coming to get him. We've moved Mr. Barnes to a private room, and he's been asking for his dog. Seems quite insistent, despite his condition." Max needed no further invitation, following Jenny immediately, his toenails clicking rapidly across the linoleum, his entire focus on reaching his person, the humans trailing behind, sharing relieved glances at this positive development. The private room was dimly lit. Leo barely visible beneath blankets and monitoring equipment, his weathered face partially obscured by an oxygen mask, but his eyes open, alert searching the doorway as they entered, lighting up at the sight of his faithful companion Max. He whispered, the dog immediately moving to the bedside, standing on hind legs to gently rest his head near Leo's hand, careful not to disturb the IV lines, good boy, best boy. Jenny watched the reunion medical objectivity momentarily overridden by the pure emotion of the scene. I've never seen anything quite like their bond, she admitted quietly. It's extraordinary. Saved my life, Leo murmured. Weakly, his gnarled fingers finding Max's golden head again. As the others watched from the doorway, the old man and his dog communicated in the wordless language developed through years of mutual dependence. Max's gentle whine, Leo's whispered reassurances. A conversation deeper than words could express a connection that had transcended isolation, hardship, and now a battle against death itself. What happens now? Sam asked the question, hovering in all their minds. After he recovers, the cabin's probably destroyed in the storm. Tom sighed heavily. One challenge at a time right now. We focus on getting him healthy, then we figure out the rest. But even as they focused on the immediate concern of Leo's recovery, the larger questions loomed unavoidable. What would become of the proud, independent man who had retreated from the world? What would become of the extraordinary dog who had built a bridge between Leo's isolation and the community that now rallied around them both? The storm raged for 3 days, burying Mapleton under nearly 3 feet of snow-breaking records dating back to 1947, power outages lasting 72 hours in some neighborhoods, trees down across the region, roads impassable. Despite continuous plowing efforts, the town effectively isolated from the outside world. Through it all, Leo remained in the urgent care center, his condition gradually stabilizing, though serious concerns remained about his back injury, the pneumonia responding slowly to antibiotics, his age, and years of inadequate nutrition complicating recovery. Max never left his side, the urgent care staff bending rules to accommodate the inseparable pair, providing a blanket beside Leo's bed where the golden retriever maintained. His faithful vigil, remarkable animal, Dr. Phillips, the visiting physician, commented during morning rounds. His presence seems to be doing more good than half-hour medications. Jenny nodded, checking Leo's vital signs. They've been through everything. Together, the dog literally saved his life multiple times. Leo told me Max has been bringing him food daily for almost 2 years since his back injury worsened. By the 4th day, as the storm finally released its grip on Mapleton and emergency crews began clearing major roadways, Leo was well enough for visitors, Tom, Marla, Mike, and Sam arriving together, finding him propped up in bed. Color-improved oxygen levels stabilized Max dozing beside him. Cabin's gone, Mike reported gently after initial greetings. Went out yesterday to check, completely collapsed under snow weight. Leo's face remained impassive, though his hand moved to Max's head, drawing comfort from the contact. Figured as much wasn't built to last anyway, not without proper maintenance. We salvaged what we could, Sam added. Your photographs, books, personal items. He placed a small box on the bedside table. Everything that seemed important. Leo nodded his gratitude, evident, though words seemed inadequate. Appreciate, that means a lot. Those photos, especially Linda's pictures, an uncomfortable silence followed the unspoken question hanging in the air. What would happen to Leo? Now his home destroyed, his health compromised, his isolation no longer sustainable, even with Max's extraordinary help. Marla finally addressed the elephant in the room. Leo, we need to talk about what happens when you're discharged. His expression hardened immediately. Not going to any institution, not becoming a ward of the state. Worked too hard too long too. End up like that. No one's suggesting that, Tom assured him. But the reality is, you need somewhere to recover, continue treatment for your back at minimum, several weeks of physical therapy. Leo looked away, his independence warring with practical necessity. Max, sensing his distress, pressed closer, offering silent support. "Don't have many options, do I? No home, no money, no family." "You have options," Marla corrected gently, "and you have people who care more than you realize." She explained the extraordinary response from Mapleton residents. Once word had spread about Leo and Max's situation, the fund established at the local bank to help with medical expenses offers of temporary housing, donations of clothing, supplies, furniture. Dave, the police officer handling logistics, ensuring Leo's privacy, was protected as much as possible. "Don't want charity," Leo muttered, though with less conviction than before. "Don't want to be a project." "It's not charity," Mike countered. "It's community. The way things used to be, neighbors helping neighbors." Leo remained silent, stroking Max's golden head, his internal struggle visible in every line of his weathered face. "I have a proposal," Marla continued carefully. "I own the building where the bakery is. There's an apartment upstairs currently unused, small but functional first-floor access, which would help with your mobility issues." Leo's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "And what would this apartment cost?" "We can work something out," Marla replied diplomatically. "Maybe you could help with minor repairs in the building. When you're recovered, advise on maintenance projects. Your construction knowledge would be valuable." "And Max?" Leo asked the question clearly most important to him. "Would he be allowed?" Marla smiled. "The apartment would be for both of you. He's part of the package deal." The offer hung in the air. Leo, clearly tempted, but still resistant. Decades of fierce independence, difficult to surrender even in the face. "Of necessity, temporary," he finally stated. "Just until I figure out something permanent, get back on my feet." Relief washed over the visitors' faces. This small concession representing enormous progress. "Absolutely," Marla agreed. "Completely temporary. On your terms, and I will pay something," Leo insisted. "Won't be a freeloader, some kind of work exchange at minimum, of course." Tom supported. "Your expertise is valuable." Leo, plenty of ways you can contribute, as they discussed practical details of the arrangement. Leo's discharge timeline, transportation, needs medical follow-up. Max remained attentive beside the bed, his intelligent eyes moving between speakers as if understanding every word, occasionally offering a supportive nudge to Leo's hand when tension arose. "There's something else," Sam mentioned as the conversation wound down. "About Max." Leo immediately tensed. "What about him?" "He's become something of a local celebrity," Sam explained. "People have been asking about him, worried. About both of you, actually. The story of how he's been bringing you food all this time, then led rescuers through the blizzard. It's inspired a lot of folks, not interested in being a spectacle," Leo grumbled, "or having Max turned into some sideshow. Attraction, nothing like that," Sam assured him. "Just thought you should know how much people admire what he did, how he took care of you all this time. Nobody's expecting anything from either of you." Leo considered this information, his expression softening as he looked at Max. "Always said he was special." "Didn't I, boy? Smarter than most people, braver too." Jenny entered with medication and updated vitals chart. "Looking better, Mr. Barnes. Another few days you should be ready for discharge if you continue improving at this rate." After she left, Leo seemed pensive, staring out the window at the snow-covered town. "Strange to think about being back among people after so long," he admitted. "Not sure I remember how it works." "You'll have Max to show you the ropes," Marla suggested lightly. "He's been navigating town successfully for years." A rare smile crossed Leo's face. "Suppose he has, at that, knows more people than I do, probably has better social skills too." The joke, however small, represented significant progress. Leo's gradual acceptance of his changing circumstances, the necessity of rejoining the community he had abandoned years ago. As visiting hours ended and they prepared to leave, Leo called Marla back to his bedside, his voice low, ensuring privacy. "Thank you for the apartment offer. It's more than generous, but I need to know, is it really okay about Max? Some places have rules, restrictions about animals." The concern in his eyes, the vulnerability beneath the gruff exterior revealed his deepest fear, not for himself, but for the companion who had saved him repeatedly. "I won't be separated from him," Leo stated firmly. "If it came to that, I'd rather take my chances elsewhere." Marla's response was immediate, unequivocal. "Leo, the apartment is for both of you. Period. Max has earned his place in this community. As much as any human, possibly more, he'll always be welcome." Something eased in Leo's expression, relief perhaps, or the first fragile tendrils of trust. "He's a good judge of character," he said, nodding toward Max, who had moved to greet Marla. "If he trusts you, I suppose I can try." Outside the urgent care center, as they walked through the snow-covered streets toward their respective homes, Tom reflected on the remarkable chain of events that had brought them here. If we hadn't followed Max that day, if he hadn't led us to Leo, or if he hadn't come for help during the storm, Marla added. Some might call it coincidence. Mike suggested right place, right time. Sam shook his head, watching his breath form clouds in the cold air. "Seems like more than coincidence to me, seems. Like Max knew exactly what he was doing all along, bringing food every day, then bringing people when food wasn't enough anymore." The wisdom in the teenager's observation struck them all with its simple truth. The golden retriever had indeed built a bridge between worlds with patient, persistent daily journeys, carrying not just food, but eventually hope, connection, and salvation, one mouthful at a time. Spring arrived in Mapleton with its customary explosion of green buds and birdsong. The harsh winter, gradually releasing its grip as temperatures rose and the last stubborn patches of snow melted into memory. 3 months had passed since the great storm, since Leo Barnes and his golden retriever had reluctantly exchanged forest isolation for town living. The apartment above Marla's bakery had transformed gradually from temporary shelter to something approaching home. Small touches accumulating. Over weeks, Leo's salvaged photographs on the walls, a hand-crafted wooden bed for Max. Beside the recliner chair, Mike had donated bookshelves built by Sam and his father to house Leo's modest collection and the many books townspeople had given him during his recovery. "Stop fussing, woman. I can manage fine," Leo grumbled as Marla adjusted the throw pillows on his new couch, a housewarming gift from the bakery staff. "It's just Tom and Jenny coming for coffee, not the governor." Marla ignored his protests, continuing her minor adjustments. "It's your first official dinner party since moving in. We want it to be nice." Max watched this familiar exchange from his cushioned tail thumping gently against the floor, his coat now gleaming with health. His once thin frame filled out properly after months of regular meals and veterinary care. The changes in Leo were equally remarkable, though less immediately visible to casual observers. He still walked with a cane, his back injury permanent, though improved through physical therapy, his expression still watchful, reserved around strangers, but the hard shell of isolation had softened visibly. Friendship cautiously extended to the small circle who had earned his trust. Most significant was his relationship with the community, tentative connections forming through Max, who remained the bridge between Leo and Mapleton. Elderly Mrs. Peterson bringing occasional homemade soup, for the man with the golden dog, Carlos, from the butcher shop saving special bones for the hero retriever and his person, parents, stopping on the street to let their children greet the now famous dog while respectfully nodding to his still reticent owner. The doorbell rang. Max immediately, alert, moving to the door. With purpose. "Let them in then," Leo directed unnecessarily, the dog already operating the lever-style handle Marla had installed specifically for his use-tum. And Jenny entered, bearing a bottle of wine and fresh flowers, Max greeting them enthusiastically. Before returning to Leo's side, his self-appointed role as host, assistant, never neglected. "Place looks great, Leo." Tom approved, surveying the apartment. "You've really made it your own." Indeed, he had, despite initial resistance, small projects now filled. The space evidence of returning purpose, shelves, cabinets, a window box for herbs. Carefully constructed from salvaged wood, Leo's builder hands remembering their craft-finding satisfaction in creation. Once again, dinner conversation flowed easily. Among the 4 humans and 1 attentive dog who maintained his position beside Leo's chair, accepting occasional morsels. With gentle dignity, topics ranging from town events to Leo's improving health to the spring building projects beginning throughout. Mapleton, actually that's partly why we came tonight, Tom mentioned as Marla served coffee and pie. Wanted to discuss an idea with you, Leo, something Mike Rodriguez and I have been considering. Leo's expression grew guarded. Decades of independence, still making acceptance of help difficult. What kind of idea? A community project, Tom explained. Restoration of the old Patterson cabin in Millridge Park, been abandoned for years. Park Service considering demolition, but it has historical significance. One of the original settler homes. What's this got to do with me? Leo asked. Though interest flickered behind his caution, needs someone who understands traditional construction methods. Tom continued, someone who can supervise restoration, teach younger folks like Sam and his friends proper techniques, preserve the craftsmanship. Jenny added gently, they're looking for a project manager, Leo, someone with expertise to oversee the work 3 days a week. Flexible schedule, decent compensation, understanding. Dawned in Leo's eyes. You're offering me a job, offering the community your valuable knowledge. Tom corrected, before these skills disappear completely, these historical techniques matter, Leo. They should be preserved, taught to the next generation. Marla watched the emotions play across Leo's face. Surprise, suspicion, consideration, pride. The park is dog-friendly, she mentioned casually. Max could come along. At the sound of his name, the golden retriever's ears perked up, attentive, as always, to conversations. Involving his person, might be interested, Leo admitted. Finally, would need to see the structure assess what's needed, victory disguised as casual acceptance. Tom and Jenny exchanged subtle glances. Mike could drive us out there tomorrow, if you're free, Tom suggested, just for a preliminary look. Plans made, coffee finished, their guests departed, leaving Leo and Max alone in the apartment that had slowly become home over the past months. Leo moved to his favorite window seat overlooking Maine. Street, Max following, settling beside him with a contented sigh. They mean well, Leo told the dog, stroking his golden head, trying to make me useful again. Give me purpose. Suppose there are worse things. Spring evening, settled over Mapleton streetlights. Flickering on, shopkeepers closing for the day, families visible through windows sharing meals. Conversations, lives intertwined in the fabric of small-town existence. Leo had forgotten during his years of self-imposed exile, strange journey. We've been on a boy, he mused. From that storm-tossed night when you showed up half-frozen to this apartment in town with dinner parties and job offers, who would have guessed? Max looked up at him with knowing eyes, seeming to understand every word. The bond between them transcending ordinary pet-owner relationships, forged through survival, mutual care, and unwavering loyalty. Should visit the old place sometime, Leo continued. When the weather's better, see what's left, maybe collect whatever. Survived the winter, the cabin site represented a chapter closing, though not with bitterness, the way Leo might once have expected. Instead, with quiet acceptance of necessary change. The forest home had served its purpose during his darkest years, providing shelter from emotional and physical storms alike now. Different shelter, different purpose. As life continued its inevitable evolution, morning brought Leo and Max to their now established routine, breakfast together, followed by their daily walk through town, Max no longer needing to scavenge food, but maintaining his rounds, greeting shopkeepers, collecting pats and occasional treats, his celebrity status undiminished, though now shared with Leo, the man Max saved as many townspeople. Called him Carlos waved from the butcher shop doorway. Morning, Leo. Morning, Max. Got some prime scraps saved just for you, he called. Mrs. Peterson, tending her spring flowers, paused to chat briefly about the weather, her arthritis, the blooming crocuses. Officer. Dave slowed his patrol car. Looking good. Leo heard about the Patterson Cabin project, perfect fit for your skills. Each interaction, each greeting still surprised Leo, who had expected judgment or pity from the community he'd abandoned, instead finding simple acceptance, his path back from isolation smoother than anticipated, largely thanks to Max, whose golden presence opened doors literal and figurative. Wherever they went approaching the park where the planning meeting would take place, Leo noticed Mike's truck already parked, several people gathered around blueprints spread on a picnic table, including Sam and 2 other teenagers eager to learn traditional building skills. There he is, Mike called, spotting Leo, and Max approaching our master, builder, and his foreman. Laughter greeted this introduction, Leo's discomfort with attention easing gradually under their genuine welcome. Max receiving his own greetings before settling attentively beside the table, clearly considering himself part of the meeting as they discussed restoration plans, materials needed, techniques required. Leo found himself increasingly engaged, memories of his builder days surfacing, knowledge still sharp. Despite years unused, his suggestions met with respect, his expertise valued in ways he had forgotten possible. This old place deserves proper restoration, he found himself saying, examining the cabin's original hand-hewn beams. Craftsmanship like this shouldn't be lost. They built things to last back then. When people took pride in their work, that's exactly why we need you, Leo. Mike responded, to teach the right way, not just quick fixes, but lasting quality. The morning stretched into afternoon plans, taking shape, Leo's initial reluctance transforming into cautious enthusiasm, the prospect of meaningful work teaching younger generations, creating something lasting, clearly appealing after years of mere survival, walking home with Max. At day's end, Leo reflected on the circuitous path that had brought him here, from successful builder to grieving widower to forest hermit to community elder with valuable knowledge to share each transition marked by loss and adaptation, his companion remaining the one constant through it all. You know what occurred to me today? He asked Max as they paused at the town square, the golden retriever attentive, as always, all those months, years. Really, when you were bringing me food, you weren't just feeding my body, you were keeping me connected, however tenuously, to this town, to people, to life itself. Max's tail wagged gently, acknowledging the observation in his own way. Smart dog, Leo murmured the familiar phrase, now carrying layers of meaning beyond its simple words. You knew what you were doing all along, didn't you? Bringing me back piece by piece, one sandwich at a time, as they continued toward home, toward the apartment above.